Welcome to Promote, Profit, Publish. I'm your host, Juliette Clark. And today, unfortunately, everybody showed up for LinkedIn, and I apologize. We had a last minute emergency, so we'll try to get him rescheduled. But I decided that I would do a presentation for you guys anyway. For those of you guys who just showed up, I don't want to keep repeating this stuff. Maybe I should put it in the chat. Anthony had a last minute emergency. So we're going to do something a little bit different today, and I will get him back as soon as I can. It was just pretty much out of my control. So what we're going to do today is how to become an authority with platform building. So thank you guys for showing up. And I want to be really cognizant of your time. So, jump out if this isn't what you needed, because you might have needed something else. So we're going to be pulling back the curtain today on sort of audience building basics, because one of the things I'm noticing in the book world over and over is people are using AI. And if you don't have some really precise things, you're not going to be able to use your AI effectively. It's not going to give you what you want. So we're going to talk about audience building, 8 pillars, and sort of some advanced planning in this area. And if you guys have questions along the way, just ask, because, this is pretty informal and I want you guys to be able to engage on this as well. So one of the things that authors get into, and I don't want to say it's childlike thinking, but in many ways it's not going to do what I need to do thinking, is you guys get into, well, this is what I want versus this is what I need. And while that's all fine and dandy, you probably remember when your kids were little and they're like, I need a Barbie. And, you were like, no, you want a Barbie. You don't need it. Platform building is a little the same way. You have to have a lot of discipline. You have to understand what's involved. And a lot of people jump in without knowing the scope of what they're actually getting into. And think about when you produce a book, you're going to be promoting that for the rest of your life. It's not just a, hey, I'm here, buy me type of thing. And I actually call that magical thinking. I used to work on the Barbie and Hot Wheels account many years ago. And, that was part of what we talked about, was that magical childlike thinking a lot. And so this is kind of a reality check as we go through this. I want you guys to really take it in and understand that all of these things work together. You can't just choose one and say, I'm going to focus here, without really balancing it out in all those other areas. So I'm right here is the result of magical thinking. The average indie author sells less than 200 books. So that's not really the impact when you write a book that you're looking for. And you're going to get pretty much zero sales as well. And this is the part where people don't really understand royalties in the back end of this, is that, you're only going to get $1 or $2 per book unless you can think outside the box and promote that and get away from the 55% that the distributors charge. So another reason, if you're writing this book to make impact, less than 200 copies is not going to give you that impact you're looking for. So it really does behoove you to not only sell more books, but lead people to those high ticket programs as well, so you can get ROI on your publishing package. So the platform building basics. This is the part that most people don't really drive down and do well with. And if you do it well, you'll work with AI as well, because AI, when you're training it, will have a really clear view of your voice and the audience, the voice your audience wants. So we're going to talk a little bit about audience overview, brand and influencers, consumer semantics, and press and websites as well. So when you're putting together, and I invite all of you guys to, think about this and revise and really get your avatar or your ideal reader very, very tight. And it involves all of these. So the first step in here is audience overview. Who's your demographic? This is really important because we have several different demographics right now, several different generations, and we all communicate differently. Think about that. My kids text all day. I would prefer we talk, but kids don't talk anymore. So you really have to be aware of which generation, which demographic you're dealing with, and how they respond, how they like to communicate, because there's so much difference out there. What is the educational or profession of your ideal client? The more you understand about the level they're at and their educational level, the better you can create a book that will connect with them. Now, that's really important as well, because are you writing a book that is the train the trainer? Or are you writing a book for somebody who wants to learn, that is a layman? One of the things that we see all the time is we'll get books and the book is meant for both. And so think about that for a minute. If I'm an expert at something and I'm reading very basic stuff, I'm kind of turned off. Like, I know this. What am I learning here? Why am I reading this book? I'm not growing. And then the other side of that, when you mix it, is that those beginners are like, oh, this is so overwhelming. I don't think I can do this. So you really have to be aware of who you're speaking to and who you're writing. And if it takes 2 books, if you want to write both of those, then write and budget for 2 books. Don't try to mix it all together. It's that old thing about when you're talking to everybody, you're really talking to nobody. Location. So figure out that location of your geography as well. When you're running ads, if your book is for something that is very trendy, then you're going to look to those big cities. If it's something like Dorothy. Dorothy is one of our clients who has written Voices from the Prairies, and she's invested in teaching our younger generations organic gardening, being able to run a ranch, growing your own food, canning your own food, they have big concerns about sustainability. Then obviously you're going to want to go where they're at, or catch those people in the fringes of that city group that are ready to move out to the country, because with remote access, so many highly educated people are moving out to the country so they don't have to deal with the big city. So it's really important that you know the location of those ideal clients, so that if you run ads, if you run promotions, you're running it where they're at. And then interests and skills. You have to recognize what are their passions, their hobbies, the skill levels, and how is that all relevant to your topic that you're teaching as well. So this is where this impacts you guys. Your copywriting, if you're not writing your copy for the right group, it's not going to connect. Your book development, if you don't know who that book is for in great detail, it's not going to hit home. Your voice, does your voice and who you serve match with the people that you're trying to connect with? So for me, I write very action-packed books because I'm assuming that my reader, and I market to that reader, I shouldn't say assume, is that person who will pick up the ball and go do something. They're invested in growth and moving ahead, and they're action oriented. I don't write nurturing books, but if you're someone who's in like meditation, or Terry's on this call with religion, those are probably need more nurturing communication than an action action-oriented audience like mine. And then content delivery, that impacts this too. So you have to get that reader avatar or your ideal client really, really tight so that you can communicate with them. The next is brand and influence. What are you doing on social media? Do you have that content for podcasts and video and all those things that you can communicate well? If you look 10 years ago, YouTube, well, probably 10, 12, YouTube was brand new. Nobody was really leveraging it. Now everybody wants instant gratification, and that short video is the way that your brand can communicate with people quickly and effectively. So, you really have to keep that brand and influence in mind. Who are the other influencers out there that are in your field? What are they doing? Because you don't want to emulate them. You don't want to be just like them. You need to stand out. So you need to do all that research in that area as well. And that really, that has impact on your engagement points, who your audience follows, your content delivery, and the relevant conversations. So when I say relevant conversations, I mean, are you speaking about the current events that are impacting whatever it is that your ideal audience is looking at? So, you don't want to be that person with an old conversation that everybody looks at and says, well, that's kind of tired. These people over here are doing something new. So you really have to look at, what's going on with your brand, what's going on with the brands that are in your neighborhood, as far as your competitors as well. Press and websites. This is something you guys totally forget. and it blows me away. So you should be out looking at your competitors' websites. You should be asking your readers or followers, hey, who are the big people you follow so you can go check them out and see what they're talking about. Sometimes a really good blog, when you're producing content, looks like these experts say X, and I'm going to disagree with that and push back and tell you why I agree with Y. So it's important. You can get a lot of really great content out of looking at your competitors. You don't want to badmouth them. You don't want to, do anything like that. But you can project an opposing viewpoint or something that you put out as an educational piece. So look at the key websites. Also, when it comes to, you're going to look at their offers. And then when it comes to press, look and see who your audience aligns with. Unfortunately, we are very, very divided in the US right now. So are your people looking at very liberal press outlets? Are they looking at conservative? Where does your point of view fit in with that? So look at the media outlets. I'll tell you right now, if you guys haven't listened, Tracy Hazard and I did a podcast a couple weeks ago on the shift in the media. If you look at the last election, it was the podcast election. Podcasts and radio are much more consumable these days than the mainstream media. So that impacts you because when you go to book media for whether it's a book or a course or whatever it is, you want to be where people are actually showing up. And the mainstream media, as much as people want TV, nobody's watching. So, you have to shift what you're doing and go to those outlets, those podcasts, those radio, other people's vlogs where these people are really at. And then build relationships with relevant outlets before you need that exposure. I know many of you who showed up today are part of Shannon Procese's program where she does press releases, and she has Media Magic where she's generated her own publicity for pretty much free. So that might be where, you pick up her book and you look at, how can I build a relationship with podcasters without having can I be on my show yet? So build those relationships before you move into the ask for them, unless you purchase. If you purchase a tour, then you're going to get that service automatically on there. So this is really important, again, because of those relevant conversations. How do you take what you do as an expert and put yourself in a position in front of the media that you can have a relevant conversation? Also, monetize content. Look at the paid offerings that are in your space. How can you make your program or course different from everybody else's? Is it a 3-month intensive versus a year-long program? Because we all know that people in year-long programs right now are kind of dropping like flies because they're not getting as much growth out of that year as they would as from an intensive. This also helps you with your ad keywords and your copy buzzwords as well. So when you look at other people's sites, you can see what are those buzzwords they're using. Do I want to use the same ones as them, or do I use something different? Are they speaking an expert language and I need layman's language? So this is where you need to get into a really deep dive on this. And then consumer semantics. This is just what hashtags are you using? Have you investigated those hashtags? If you're using something like meditation that has millions and millions of people using that same hashtag, are you going to get the visibility you're looking for? Don't do this. People are always cute and they make up their own hashtag and nobody knows what the heck you're talking about. So you have to find that balance there as well. Also, if you're over on Instagram, you need cross-platform hashtags. The ones that work on LinkedIn are not necessarily going to work on Instagram or Facebook. So really take a look at what you're using where, and are you even on the platform where your people are at? I've shared in the past that we had a client who insisted that her Solo to CEO program was on LinkedIn because she was so good at on Facebook because she was so good at Facebook. But if you think about that, people on LinkedIn are where you're going to find those people. So you have to make sure that you're in the right place to communicate with that audience as well. And then targeted keywords and engagement strategies. Keywords are so easy to find these days, you guys. You write something, you run it through ChatGPT, or I use Perplexity all the time. Find out what are the keywords in the article. You might find out that you didn't even use the keywords in the article you're trying to promote, or the video that you thought you did or that you actually wanted. So all of those are really important concepts. And then all of it really impacts your discoverability. You can be out there, but for people to find you, you're going to have to be searchable. So that means searchability, connection, everything key rich, your content, your videos, your blogs, and then it's using your audience language. And the other thing that everybody forgets, and I hate to make generalizations, but Andy's on this call, and we actually talked about it in the course he's in yesterday, that you need a feedback loop. Like you have to go in and analyze and see what's working and what's not, because you want to do more of what's working. And if you're not gaining traction, it might be that people aren't looking because you're not producing the content with the keywords and the language that they're looking for. So all of this is just a really deep dive into that avatar and how can I really tighten it up so I'm getting exactly the right people. I had an exercise back when I first started. I went down to Venice Beach and Santa Monica Pier, and I had one of those caricatures drawn up of my avatar, Kathy. And I had it right here on the wall. And every time I talked to someone, I looked up there to see if, is this person Kathy? I had all of my criteria underneath. And if they didn't meet the Kathy criteria, I had to dive a little bit deeper to see if they were going to be a good client for me. So the 8 pillars of your platform build. This is the part where I was talking about where you have to do all of these. You can't just do one and say, okay, I'll call it a day. You have to integrate all of these together. And at the end, you'll see why we do that. So the first is your brand foundation message. And I'm not going to get into this in a huge way because I'm not a branding expert, and we have lots of them. If you're in Shannon Procese's group, there are a couple people over there that are really good branding experts. But what you do want is authenticity. You have to figure out who you are before you can project that through the rest of the world. And a lot of people I talk to, and you guys probably experience this as well, they have no idea who they are. Like for me, I'm direct, I'm to the point, I'm an acquired taste at times. So I have to know that and be okay with that. And there are other people who, I just want everybody to like me. And if you're that person, then proceed in that way. But, you do have to dig deep, and that might require that you hire a coach and really do some personal development work on that as well. Your message also, your unique angle. What do you bring to the table that's different than everybody else? And then your audience alignment. You need to make sure once you get that message in place, you don't just run with it. You have to make sure it resonates and it meets the specific needs of your audience, whether it's readers, whether it's people taking your course. So you have to get that feedback loop around your brand constantly. And what I recommend is when you're position yourself as a server. Right now, I'm working with a company that wants to up-level what they're doing. And they're all about sell, sell, sell. They have a 15-minute call to sell you. And I'm literally saying, you can't do that. You have to get to know these people so they trust you on that. So connectivity is really important on this. It's the core of everything you create. So it has to remain consistent across your book, across your business offerings, across your marketing material, and your personal experience. There's nothing worse than speaking at an event or seeing someone speak at an event, and then you walk up and try to talk to them, and they seem all, I am wonderful, I am kind, I am open, talk to me anytime on the stage. And then they get off the stage and they get on a plane and go away because they don't really want to talk to you. And so you have to be really in alignment with who you say you are. And I actually worked for a company back in 2016 that the guy who heads it wasn't who he said he was at all. And it was very interesting to watch how he ran his business. I actually worked for him in a marketing capacity, and I was kind of blown away by it. Content strategy. This is a big part you guys all avoid. You need to build content, whether it's a podcast, a YouTube channel, a blog, a magazine, whatever your delivery is, it has to be consistent delivery. So you want to be reliable. People know that every Tuesday, my podcast comes out. And then there's promotion around that. Every Monday is or every once a month is the magazine. Every Monday is a LinkedIn newsletter people are looking for. So you need to be reliable because you want to project that you're reliable in everything you do. What's that saying about how you do anything is how you do everything? So if you don't show up reliable, people might not hire you because they want somebody who's reliable and they don't see you being that. Platform optimization. Tailor your content for the platform that it works on, and be different from everybody else out there. So the things you put on LinkedIn may not be actually what you put on Instagram or YouTube or Facebook. I have an example. I use a real estate agent where I used to live, who on Facebook, it's kind of a connecting. She talks all about the problems with her ex-husband and child support. And I look at that and I go, how the heck does she even have time to service me with that kind of platform? And then I saw that she has it over on LinkedIn too, which is just completely inappropriate. So make sure you have the right content strategy for the right platform, and that there's not TMI going on. There's a point where you want to be professional, and people don't need to know all of that about your personal life. Maybe hobbies would be fun, but I don't really want to get in the middle of your drama with your ex-husband. And then the reason you need this content is this is what builds trust. When people see that you're an authority on something, they're going to go back and they're going to continue to listen to your podcast, to read your articles. There's a big concept in writing that is show, not tell. When you hear people out there, screaming at the top of their lungs that they're the best at what they're doing, verify that. Go and look at their content. Does their content look good? Because typically, and maybe I'm saying this wrong, but my father used to always tell me, if you have to tell everybody how good you are, you may not be that good. So content is the way that you show your expertise without screaming obnoxious things about how great you are. The content strategy for connectivity. So you want to have social media, you need that list building, and you need those power partners. And those power partners can be very important, as we're finding out with this consulting I'm doing with another business. Over the years, they have not been reliable power partners. And now that there's a new strategy and a new business model coming, the old power partners just aren't interested because they've experienced that unreliability in the past. So be sure that you have that connectivity everywhere you're at. Social media presence. You have to have it. So are you producing good content? Is your content, just like we talked about, on the right platform, in the right place? Are you doing static things on, Instagram where everybody's there for the reels? Community building. Are you creating social media experiences that can build community? What do I mean by that? It's sort of a social media and content with us where we do these meetings. You guys show up for the trainings. We love training you, but it also gives me an opportunity to connect with you and find out, what are your problems? How can we help? It's not just about selling. You get to ask questions at the end. You get to know me. So, these are things that all of my clients should be doing as well, because that's the way new people show up. People tell me all the time, oh, I read your LinkedIn newsletter and I decided finally I'm going to do this book. So now I'm going to come over to your trainings and get to know you and find out, are you my person? So that's why you do this all. And the social media has to be consistent as well. So one of the things when we work with people on their social media, the pushback we get is, I don't have time to make a lot of content. That's where it behooves you to make one big piece a week and then repurpose the heck out of it. I just was complimented by another group because they're like, we're looking at what you're doing and you've got like 9 different repurposes for every piece of content. And we've set it up for it's that way so that we can attract different people. We've got these people that, want instant gratification. We've got something for them. Those that are, longer, I need to get to know you people. We've got stuff for them too. So really keep that in mind as well. The social connectivity, you're going to find that we're going to connect this content, the list building, The social media and the power partners, you need all of those for your launch. That's why I said you can't just choose one area here. You're going to choose to develop all of them. And I don't mean go in and develop all at once. Develop one, move on to the next. So that's really the way you should do it, because overwhelmed people just don't thrive. They get overwhelmed and they just quit. List building. Out of all the things I just talked about, the content is yours. Social media, not yours, belongs to Mark Zuckerberg, X, Elon, whoever. It belongs to them. So they can take you down at any time if they don't like what you do. So that's where your list comes in. This is another thing like your content that's wholly owned by you. If they took you off of Facebook today, you could still have your list. And that's why it's important to have those lead magnets and get those people off of social media and into your list. But just as social media, that transition, getting them off, you still have to have regular communication. So you have to look once a week. You need an email with content at least once a week. And I wouldn't say every day, don't do that, because you're going to exhaust people with your list. I also recommend that you don't sell things in your list. Maybe a book, that's great, a small ticket item, but people get exhausted by just being sold in their lists too. You have to build that relationship. And then the biggest thing in here is you have to have a performance tracking. Again, analytics. Which emails are they really liking? Which ones aren't they? Go back and look. Was it the headline? Was it the content? Was it the topic? Kind of take a real hard look at those things that aren't getting opened and figure out what to do. One of the strategic things that I've seen really great authors do is they give things away in their list to build their list, but then they strategically go back in, probably like every quarter, and they send out an email and they say, hey, see, you haven't opened in a while. If you don't open in the next 30 days, we're going to delete you. You're welcome to subscribe later. What did that author, who, by the way, made the New York Times bestseller list a couple years ago after weaving her way up through the bestseller list, why did she do that? Because now she has a clean list of 25,000 people. She knows where they read. And because you need more than one platform of sales for those big bestseller lists, now she sends out, I know these people are going to buy over here out of that 25,000. I know these people are going to buy on Amazon. Now I've got my bestseller and I've got people who are engaged in my email list and will buy that book. So this is where this all comes together. So that list building is part of this, because the content goes into your list, it goes into social media, and now you're exchanging with power partners and you're going to use it for your launch as well. Power partner growth. This is probably the biggest area where everyone could improve. So I have a list of about 10 power partners that I do business with. We promote each other, we mentor in each other's groups, and we do power partner referrals as well. What does that power partner referral get me? It gets me a warm lead versus a cold lead. So if you're over prospecting on LinkedIn, you're probably getting a cold lead. Same over on Facebook. It's so much harder and so much more expensive to turn a cold lead than it is a warm lead. So this not only benefits your business, but if you have these partners, buying a $20 or $30 book that someone has recommended to you is much easier, a much easier lift during a launch to be able to do that. So you have to build the relationship with your power partners. My power partners are not competitors. They're people who have businesses that would fit into mine. So I have somebody who runs tours. He's a power partner. I have Media Magic, Shannon's group. We do press releases with there. I mentor in her group. Tracy Hazard, they pull stuff off of out of our magazine, and they run it as part of their content, and vice versa. We invite people to their events. So you really have to get that in place, because there are a ton of introductions there. There's a ton of room to go and do presentations with your expertise to those power partner groups and sell those books as well. And it's really, again, it's not only the mutual promotion, but it's a credibility transfer. So Shannon is saying to the people that she sends to me, I value and trust this partner, and you can too. So that's why I like that so much better. And for those of you who are out there who've done JVs, the difference between the power partner and the JV is a click. Click is not a relationship. I know from my time working for the joint venture inner circle that JVs bring you big dead lists of people who want free stuff and not people who are serious about building a relationship and buying from you in the future. So big difference in the quality of the audience you get on there. And then that audience expansion through those strategic relationships, you can really get a lot of audience expansion. One of my power partners was at an event in San Francisco yesterday. She literally called me and she said, I got a guy here who's releasing a book next month. He needs a bestseller campaign. She literally handed off the phone. And I have the person, I'm talking to them later today because they were at an event, but it's things like that where, they're just coming out of the blue. She knew this person. She didn't know that he was writing a book. They connected at the event. Boom. Now he's going to have a bestseller campaign if he wants it. So it really is important doing all that and putting that together for your launch. So think about it. If you're going to build a relationship for a launch of any kind, you need to be building that months before. It's just like a relationship. When you're dating, you don't go out of the first date and go, hey, will you be my partner? So you really do have to work on building that relationship. So the connectivity has given me media opportunities. Partners open the door for press coverage. I don't know how many times I've been on somebody's podcast or one of my partners has approached me and said, so-and-so heard you on the podcast. They wanted me to ask if I would introduce you. So those opportunities just arrive out of nowhere. Social media amplification. Our magazine. We have 12 partners who are sharing our magazine every month, which means that they're getting business, I'm getting business, and they all have extra content that they didn't even create. It came from the partnership. And then the list building growth. Anything you can do to build that list, because it's going to be a big part of your launch as well as the swipes from your partners. Swipes are promotional emails that you write for those partners that they can promote whatever you're selling to, whether it's a book, a product, or a service. Media establishing authority. One of the things we see all the time is people will come and they'll say, I really want to be on Oprah. Well, Oprah doesn't really have much of a show anymore that I know of. But the thing is people aren't watching shows like that anymore. People aren't turning on the news at night and hearing people talk about their expertise in their book as much as they used to. They are over on podcasts. And I will tell you, someplace like Newsmax, I actually know that somehow Newsmax gets in there and gets books that they promote on air. They actually run commercials on particular books. Right now, it happens to be a book on how to position your business and your life to avoid, not have maximum tax. Paying taxes to the government. Like, I'm all over that book. Every business owner should be all over that book. So, there really has to be some expert positioning. When you go on as an expert, we recently had this happen where I recommended someone for a podcast interview, and she literally got on the guy's show, and every question he asked her, she didn't give the knowledge of her expertise. She said, oh, you have to buy my book to find out. You can imagine I got an earful about that. So book planning, book media opportunities 3 to 6 months before you launch your book. The reason I say that is contract that tour person because they're going to be putting together the pitches, but they also need time to get you out there. So make sure you have all that contracted in advance. And the other part of that is that, like for me, I'm recording right now for May of this year. So I'm always 2 months ahead on my recording. So if you want that book, that media tour to start when your book launches, you need to get that booked in advance so they can get you on calendars. And then just be everywhere. Be everywhere you can. That doesn't mean that you're like on Pinterest and, that you're everywhere in terms of social media, but definitely, show up for things that you could actually share some authority in. The media connectivity too. Again, those power partners, they can get you places on media. They're amplifying your stuff on social media. They're helping you list build because they're amplifying those lead magnets. And now you have some launch momentum, whether it's for your book, a program, a podcast, whatever you're putting together. So a launch, especially a book launch, is a coordinated effort of the integration of your platforms, all those things I just mentioned, a launch strategy, and you have to choose the right approach. Do you want a soft launch? A soft launch might be where you're doing a beta group for a course, or beta readers where they're reading your book and giving you feedback. It could be a rolling launch where, you launch every month over a year, which really exhausting way to launch, but I've been there, done that, and I don't think I'd do it again. Or do you want a big bang launch? So you have to decide with that strategy, what kind of launch you want, what kind of partners you need, what kind of momentum you can get on it, and start building that pre-launch months in advance. So seeding all that for coming soon, talking to people, beta, all of that. It's not just a flat, we decided one day to do this. I worked with a company back in 2021 that literally they came to me for social media training. And all of a sudden in week 3 of a 4-week training, they announced they had a podcast. And I said, oh, did you just decide we're going to start planning for that? And they're like, no, we recorded them 6 months ago, but we just pulled them out because of what you said about content. And now we want to launch it. Can you tell us how to launch it? And I thought, wow, you just started recording. You didn't look into what platforms they're going to use. Do I need an editor? How do I promote? They did nothing. They just decided one day they were going to start, and they never did get it off the ground because they did all that work to record them and get them ready, but they didn't have the money to go through someone like I use, a Podetize, and they didn't understand how to use the do-it-yourself that I passed on to them since they couldn't afford it. So it just went nowhere. And what a waste of time and money. And everybody on here is a small business owner. So time is money. You can't waste it. So what you're going to do with this launch and whatever you're doing to integrate it is generate that social media buzz, get that excitement out there. There are a lot of people out there that suffer from FOMO. They're fear missing out. The media exposure, make sure that's going at the same time. And you have those lead magnets ready so that when you're on a show, you can drive them to a piece of material that will educate, inspire, whatever it is that your platform is. The email campaigns. It's time to start converting those warm leads into customers. That's why you want to warm them up. People are really hesitant on these big ticket programs to let go of money now and get training. So you're going to have to nurture them a lot, which means building a relationship. And then the content rollout, what's going to be paid, what's going to be free. You need to get all of that together. And then what's after the launch? One thing that happens with books, and I'm probably the only publisher out there that's completely transparent, that with a book launch, you probably will not sell a number of books that will bring you ROI from that publishing package because they're expensive. And especially if you're doing all you need to do with the content build and tours and a launch and getting all the digital stuff that needs to happen, then you need, what's the next step? How am I going to monetize and recoup that? Is it a course? Is it a webinar series? Is it a group program? That needs to all start before that book is launched because you want to be able to use that book as a nurture tool to get those people in that. So you can probably see here that the monetization and converting that authority into revenue streams, you're going to have to build upon all the success you've been building through this platform. And so that's why it's so important to start, keep going, keep building, and before your book is launched, have it all integrated. So your plan is key. It's absolutely key. You need that connection, the community, the impact, and the monetization. It all has to work together into one big build. So this can be a little bit overwhelming. So I'm going to encourage you, start where you're at today. Don't look out there and try something advanced. Just start, assess where you're at, review your goals, and then lay out that plan. Once that plan is laid out and you start to execute it, measure and adjust. I always say marketing is a guess until it's not. And I see that in a lot of you guys too, where you'll try one thing, doesn't work. You'll go to another. I can see who's going to be successful because the successful people are very persistent. Anybody who tells you that they started something and it was 6 figures in 6 months is probably not being very truthful with you, because this definitely is a long haul project. So I want to invite you guys. We have 2 events coming this month. We have Revenue Rumble, which is a coaching panel and is coming up on the 18th. And it's 10 a.m. Pacific. You guys can get all the times there. You can go to revenuerumble.com to sign up. For those of you who are here in January, Gretchen Heido was amazing. I got just tons of emails about that was the best training you've ever put on. She's going to be back. She's an ICF coaches coach. So she is really into getting people monetized, especially those people who are struggling to get past 6 figures or up to 6 figures. Anthony, who was supposed to be here today, he will be here then. And we're going to try to get him back as well. For those of you who came on late, he had a family emergency. And so I had to step in at the last minute, but we will get him back because what he does is very important. And I know so many of you need it. And then it's also going to be Rebecca Bertoldi, who is a marketing and Go High Level coach. And by the way, if you're not using Go High Level, you are missing out. I switched 6 months ago. I have never been so happy with the program in my life as far as ease of using it, because it just like I had Infusionsoft. We all started with Infusionsoft probably, and Infusionsoft was it was difficult to use without like a PhD and their training and all that, and some of the other platforms as well. Also this month, March 20th. We have a GHLmonthly.com. That's Go High Level. We're starting to do author training for Go High Level. Everybody's invited. Also, GHL Monthly, that's Go High Level. We're starting to do these. This month, it's going to be social media. So, Rebecca does a great training. And if you're somebody who's new to Go High Level or you're thinking about it, these trainings are great because they might be the difference between you pulling the trigger and moving to this all-in-one platform or not. And so she's going to talk about easy platform connection, how you get that social media together. I love this so much. I'm literally posting for June right now. I mean, I just took my content. I've broken it down. My social media is in the system and ready to go. That's how easy the posting is. And then full content calendar management. She's going to talk a little bit about that as well. So, and don't forget Breakthrough Author Magazine. If you're not a member, you don't have to. It's not just for authors. There are a lot of articles in there about speaking, content development, podcasting, just anything that most business owners need, especially digital business owners. Rebecca writes articles every month on digital marketing. So even if you're not an author, you probably could get quite a bit out of our magazine, I would hope. So go to breakthroughauthormagazine.com and download your first issue. So questions, comments, who wants
Thanks
to be
for that
great?
Thanks for that great information. That's a lot. That's fantastic. If we wanted to review the replay, could we do that?
Review this?
Yeah.
You may review it when it comes out in podcast. It's going to be out April 22nd.
Okay. All right.
Because it needs to be put together for that.
Okay.
So questions. I see a lot of you. Gosh, almost everybody here is either a client or a past client. Questions on that. I know Dorothy, you guys, I have to give a shout out to Dorothy Beasley here. Dorothy has published one book. She's in the middle of a cookbook and another book. She's putting out canning courses. She's helping youngsters. And when I by youngsters, I mean, probably those 25 to 40-year-olds learn more about ranching and farming and sustainability. And so I have to give her a shout out. I have never seen someone that just, what a vision of what she wants to do. So connect with Dorothy and find out what she's up to. She'd probably love it. And isn't Alberta going to become the 51st state, I heard? She's up in Alberta.
Oh boy, you could push a button there, maybe.
Oh, there we go. Anybody else with questions? Terry, Andy, Amanda, I'm going to call y'all out. Bob, I know you always have a ton of questions.
Yeah, this is a great presentation, though.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Who was that just spoke? Amanda?
I said it was a good review, because I've taken your courses and worked with you on other things. So, but it's a nice review, especially running through things again, because yeah, that's been it's been a year ago that I published. So
Yeah, it is. You guys too. We are definitely this year going to do the November planning again. And for those of you who haven't done it in the past, we actually go through it and we give you forms. So, take your yearly goals for 2026, break them down into quarters, break them down into months. I just had Dorothy do it because you could hear she's got a lot going on. And for her to keep track of that, we just broke all that down. It's amazing when you break it down and you really get into the planning I was talking about. The people with the podcast, if they had done that to beginning, they would have costed out. They knew there was tech they had to learn. They didn't have much of a budget, so they would have known, I can't pull the trigger on this. And they wouldn't have done all that work just to find out that this wasn't doable for them. So I think I'm going to do it free probably again this year. I used to make it a paid course, but I think you guys all really benefit just for, I have to set some goals. It's November and I'm kind of behind on it.
I like what you talked about with the assess and adjust, because that's so important. I mean, that's really where the rubber hits the road, I think, is, if you're not evaluating what you're doing and making changes accordingly, it's a problem. So that was really nice to see.
It is. And Andy, we talked about that yesterday in class too, that analyzation, like nobody ever goes back and looks at their open rate on their email. Nobody ever goes back and says, how many, what was the response to this social media post? Was it ugly? Did I get comments? They just kind of, okay, I'm going along. And then they wake up one day and go, it's not working. And I don't know why. And it's too late.
Juliet, it's funny that you talk about that, because I was thinking, I wrote a book, like you said, and it's a small book, and I'm using it as a lead magnet. And people are signing up, and I'm not getting any comments. I was like, what the hell's going on? And because you said that, I got in the back end. I didn't connect the thank you to my email campaign.
Right? It's things
so
like
they never
that.
even got the book, right? Like they didn't even get the link for downloading the book.
Yeah, it's things like that. I did something the other day where somebody came back and they said, we can't see that. Yeah. And I was like, what do you mean you can't see it? I can see it. And same thing. I went back and I looked and there was like one piece of code that I didn't put in there.
I just didn't link it. Like it was all set up. My whole email drip campaign was all set up, because then my guy says, well, Andy, where did I get the book? I was like, what are you talking about? And I tested myself. So, forgot to do the link, right? So thank you for that, because like I said, I've been promoting it and I was saying, how come I say anything about it? Well, they weren't getting it. So.
Well, and think about that. If you hadn't done that, you probably would have gone a year and just gone, I don't know why I'm writing this big book, because nobody's even interested in the little book.
Exactly. Right. So no, thank you so much for that. Yeah. And we will have a copy of this recording so we can go through it again, because like I said, you went by. It was a great review, and
all right. I guess you and Bob have outnumbered me. I will send a recording.
Thank you.
Recording.
Thank you, Julia. I need to get ready for my next meeting.
All right.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Bye.
See you, Amanda. See you guys.
Yeah, and I was going to say why that's so important too. Go ahead, India. Why that's so important too. I recently have gotten from another book developer. I've gotten a whole bunch of people who have arrived and they'll say, oh, I have a lead magnet. And I've gotten 6 of them now. And I take a look at the lead magnet. It has no drip campaign. It has no lead possibility, because you're not going to call that person and sell that email to someone or sell that. Like they take the quiz, it goes nowhere. All you have is an email and a phone number. You're not going to call them and sell them something cold just because they downloaded that. You need that nurture sequence. And so I had to go back to them. I'm talking to them about some other things and say, what are you doing? You're selling something to these people that is not helping them. And so just think about that too. They had no idea, because they don't have the savvy or the know-how to go back and go through it and go, oh, this should have had a drip campaign, or, why am I not getting leads from this? Why do I not know more about it? So,
yeah. By the way, Juliet, I put in the chat, I have a free program called How to Walk Your Way Out of Chronic Pain. And the link is there. So if anybody wants that program, it's less than 15 minutes and it's really powerful. It helps people stay off walkers as they get older. So,
good deal.
and get rid of
Okay.
that forward head posture.
Thank you.
And I
Thank you for
I texted it to you also, Juliet.
Oh, that's why I have so many texts here. I was wondering what's going on.
Yeah, I think 3 of them are from me. All right.
Okay, good. All right. So that's it, guys. Unless you have more questions, I have an appointment with the lovely Terry when I'm done here. Terry, tell people a little bit about what you're doing. If you would, take a brief moment.
I've got a couple books published, and there's part of a series, and I don't want to continue with the series until I get some good marketing done on on book one. And I run a nonprofit religious organization that puts out, and has since 1996, when the internet was first discovered by the public, faith builders, articles, ebooks, that's, courses and that sort of thing. And so, um, I'm trying to get my schedule shifted off from the admin duties of that, running that organization, onto where I can focus on the books and the courses, and getting not just my product known, but my face known, my voice known.
Very good. That's sort of where Dorothy's at too. She's got to get her lovely face out there. So, all right.
I also wanted to point out, when you're talking about the follow up, the drip campaign, whatever, for when you build a lead, I use WordPress for my website, and there's a free WordPress plugin called Download Link. And so that's how I distribute the ebooks. And everybody has to fill out their name and email address to get this. And the Download Links plugin shows you who's actually downloaded it. And if they haven't downloaded it, you've got their email address to go and say, hey, you were interested in this. Apparently you haven't downloaded it yet. Here it is attached. And that really builds up loyalty.
Nice. I like that. I like that a lot. All right, you
Okay,
guys.
everybody, gotta go. See ya. Bye.
Bye-bye.
See you soon. Bye-bye.